diet. And I didn't quite catch it about being vegetarian and
Oh, yeah, the vegetarian issue.
because I heard you say about weight drop and the lighthearted, which I experienced. I dropped 10 pounds and I felt kind of.
Yeah, okay. He was asking a question about diet because there had been a really brief answer to somebody's question about food and about, just dietary concerns and if our program has any of those. And we do have them. They're not even in written form yet because these are the more important things. The core template things have to be fixed first before you're going to make any difference for yourself, on the deepest levels with the diet. But we talked about the issue of vegetarianism. Vegetarianism is interesting because it's been used in a way, or let's say abused in a way, in the New Age teachings that have literally created a movement in the mainstream that has used, first of all, a distortion on a spiritual distortion. Many people become vegetarians because of a spiritual identification with animals. It's always terrible to kill animals. We don't have to eat animals, so I'm going to be a vegetarian, and anybody that's not a vegetarian is spiritually below me, is what a lot of the people, the attitude that they cultivate. First of all, on the spiritual level, there's not a difference between that plant and that animal that you're eating. You're killing both of them to eat them, all right? So there's no difference, all right? If we're not breatharians, which we can't quite be yet because of the DNA mutations in the planetary grids, we have agreements, and there's a way of eating and taking in things that was the way it was done originally when the genetic adjustments had to be made to our race so we could sustain on a planet that didn't have D12, where there was a respect and a reverence. We would only eat things that wanted to leave, and they wanted to, our fields actually gave them the stairway to heaven in frequency to climb up to the next level. So there's a way of consuming either plant or animal or mineral or water that should be done with reverence. That's the spiritual part of it. The physical part of it has been highly, highly abused by the core of this abuse is coming through the Anunnaki Matrix False Ascension teachings. They were pushing the vegetarian issue among their people because when you only eat plant frequency, plants have a frequency. Everything you eat is a frequency. When you take in plant frequencies resonate with D4 and 5 primarily, and a little bit with the lower, like the higher octaves of the lower 3 dimensions, 1, 2, and 3. Animals tend to resonate with the full spectrum of dimension 1, 2, and 3, and some of them have the ability to bring in the higher frequencies. If you just bring into your body the higher frequencies of like dimensions 4 and 5, it makes your frequency go up. And you actually begin to oscillate too fast, where it's very difficult to stay focused in your body because your consciousness is pulling up, but you haven't cleared your shadow imprint yet. Your shadow imprint is still on a reverse matrix going down. And the further your consciousness goes up, the further the gap between you and your shadow, which means you're not going to be able to integrate those parts as easily. That's where you get the lightheaded kind of spacey detachment space that they call spirituality, which is not true spirituality. Now, vegetarianism can be used in balance with taking in substances, meat substances, or at least certain types of plant substances that have lower frequency. Because the lower frequency will help you to bring you back into your body. If you're going to transmute the rest of you here, if you're going to take what's in your body and heal it so you can take it with you, you need to integrate, not pull away from it. What they're teaching and what they're getting people to do is biofield detachment. They're getting you to focus where your consciousness is literally going up into the D4 frequency bands, into the astral frequency bands, getting progressively out of touch. This is why usually people that go into that space also lose interest in things that have to do with chakras below here. They tend to get very, this is where the lie of celibacy comes in as well. There's been a great movement to make sure we don't run energies down in our lower 3 systems, our lower 3 body systems, because they're the areas where they're holding the reversals into ourselves. We've been fragmented, where part of our consciousness goes up, the other's stuck in 3D. And ultimately why this is being done, particularly now, is because of the objectives in this stellar activation cycle of the fallen angelic races. What their objectives are is to get as much of the Earth's shields or planetary grids pulled into phantom matrix, which means pulled into a reverse rotation. Now, to get pulled into phantom matrix, they want to take the people with them. To get pulled into phantom matrix implies one thing: your physical bodies will not survive. In that transition, you would spontaneously combust. You would literally be turn into flame. What they are trying to get you to do is transfer as much of your consciousness as you can into your D4 astral body so they can get it running on a reverse matrix, pull it into the phantom matrix, where you have a pseudo-immortal body that isn't really an immortal body because your physical body aspect got stuck in the dimensional fields on this side of the matrix. They're trying to separate your consciousness so the D4 level can be hijacked at the fourth dimensional frequencies, turned around in a reverse matrix, so you end up thinking you ascended, and you're someplace on something called Phantom Earth, which is the equivalent, the part of Earth's grid that got pulled into the Phantom Matrix. So there's a trick in the vegetarian thing that's being done that's progressively, purposely teaching you to move this part of yourself up here, separate the lower and the higher parts, get rid of the lower part as if you could get rid of it, and literally transfer your consciousness somewhere else so it can be manipulated. Well, what we're teaching you to do is to bring them both together so you can transmute the reversals that are in the lower pattern, and that will also allow you to bring in the higher frequencies of your soul and your oversoul, your avatar. So there's tricks that are being done here right in front of our faces. The best way to hide something is put it right in front of somebody's face and call it something different. And that's exactly what they're doing. So that was what the discussion, the little bit of a commentary you were overhearing on vegetarianism. What I suggest, there are times, I used to be a vegetarian, and I was thinner when I was a vegetarian, but I would also get in these spaces where, even if I smoked cigarettes, I couldn't smoke enough cigarettes to keep me in body. I'd be driving a car, and I'd find my eyes were looking from the top over the roof. And I'd catch myself, oh my God, as if my head was on top of the roof, outside of the car. And I was literally perceiving from there. And then I kind of go, and try to drag myself back down the body so I didn't crash into something. Because when you go up into the frequency spaces, things down here in lower frequency range start to disappear. And it might be the car in front of you, and you just happen to run into it because you didn't see it there. So I was taught to balance it, where vegetarian for most of the time is good. But I was told for once a week, have at least, if not red meat, at least some kind of chicken or something. But when you're eating, whatever you're eating, bless it. Run your D12 frequency through your body, open your palm chakras, and run it through. Because what you're doing is you're clearing, not only temporarily clearing whatever level of your own karmic imprint is active in your body, but you're taking your D12 blueprint, running D12 frequency through a thing before you put it into your body, clearing its miasmic content, which means you're going to take something and your food will be more pure when you eat it. You won't take the miasms, because right now we're taking in the miasms of the plants and on the animals. There's a whole bunch. Talk about sneaky ways of taking over a planet. You would not believe the Botanical Society of Nibiru and what they have done to the natural plant life here. You would be amazed at how many of the plant forms here were never indigenous to Earth. They were indigenous to Nibiru, and they brought them here and planted them here, and they got us to integrate them into our body systems, and the animals eat them into their body systems. They've been progressively trying to turn this into Nibiruans, which is a reverse matrix code. So literally, plants, people that eat, vegetarians, there's a lot more concentration of Nibiruan plants than there are, say, Nibiruan animals. And you are literally taking in more of the reverse matrix when you eat them. Now that will change if you clear food. If you just simply run your Maharic seal and breathe the frequency down your palm chakras, just like you would in a healing session with the currents, and blast it through the food item, like hold it over your plate. This was the original meaning of blessing your food. When you do food blessings, that was what it originally meant. You were transmitting the D12 divine blueprint through it to clear anything out of it, which also served the animal or the plant consciousness, because it was then no longer anchored, stuck to those issues and miasmic things. It was able to ascend out of here. So food blessing, using the Maharic frequency, is one of the best things you can do no matter what you eat. Even when we smoke cigarettes to get our frequency back down low enough so we don't get spacey and those kind of things, we run the heart frequency through the tobacco, those kind of things. So at least it's the divine blueprint is reset. So that's what I could do a whole workshop probably on the information. The volumes that I've seen are scary. The amount of material that exists on food combining, food compatibilities with what types of templates. It ties into the whole rosters of what plant and animal species came from what matrix, What are their templates? That's how you really find out what the best health food is. You have to understand your template, which means you have to understand what you are. You know, are you an angelic human? Well, at least you're partway there if you're in a human body. Even if you're a draconian person or a Nike person that's in a human body, you still have the ability now. You have part of that template that you can begin to evolve the Christos blueprint. You'd want to eat more Christos food and less reverse matrix food. You know what I mean? But it's going to take a while before we get those translations down because there were more important things first. The fastest way, food would work this way coming in. It would work from the outer layers of the field going back to the template, which is the slow way. We're going from the template up into the outer layers.